They call it the vertical city, a place where gravity seems to be merely a suggestion, and the architecture doesn't just sit on the landscape. It tumbles down it. Author John Steinbeck once wrote that Positano bites deep. He called it a dream place that isn't quite real when you are there, but becomes beckoningly real after you have gone. Decades later, that dream still holds true. But before the luxury, this was a humble fishing village with a legendary past. From a medieval port rivaling Venice to a sanctuary for artists, and now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is the jewel of the Amalfi Coast. Welcome to Positano. To understand Positano, you first have to understand the landscape that birthed it. We are in the region of Campania, on the southern flank of the Sorrentine Peninsula. This is the Amalfi Coast, a 50-kilometre stretch of coastline that UNESCO declared a World Heritage Site in 1997, describing it as an outstanding example of a Mediterranean landscape. Geographically, this area is defined by a dramatic collision. Behind us rise the Latari Mountains, the Milky Mountains, named by the Romans for the goats that once grazed these slopes and produced rich milk. These limestone giants, reaching heights of over 1,400 metres at peaks like Sant'Angelo, a tree pizzi, don't slope gently to the ocean. They crash into it. This terrain created isolation. For centuries, the only way to reach this village was by mule path or by boat. It wasn't until the mid-19th century that the Bourbons commissioned the road we likely arrived on today. The SS 163, also known as the Amalfitana. It is famously one of the most beautiful and vertigo-inducing drives in the world. A ribbon of asphalt that threads through the cliffs, suspending travellers between the rock face and the Tyrrhenian Sea. Positano is often described as a pyramid. It is a cascade of terracotta, peach, and pink houses that seem to be standing on each other's shoulders. This unique layout wasn't just an aesthetic choice. It was a necessity of survival. With almost no flat land available, the locals built upwards, carving terraces directly into the rock. It is a vertical city in the truest sense. In Positano, you don't give directions using left or right. You use up or down. The architecture here is distinctly Mediterranean, but with a local twist. You will notice the domed roofs filled with sand or lapillus volcanic pumice to keep the homes cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And the colours, the pastel washes of the facades, are said to have been chosen so that fishermen far out at sea could recognise their own homes amidst the dense mosaic of the village. While today this view symbolizes luxury, the history of Positano is a pendulum that has swung between immense wealth and desperate poverty. In the Middle Ages, this was a formidable maritime power, a key port of the Republic of Amalfi. Its merchants traded spices and silks with the Orient, rivaling the great naval powers of the time. The three watchtowers you can still spot along the coast stand as silent sentinels from an era when Saracen pirates were a constant threat from the horizon. But the Golden Age didn't last. By the mid-19th century, a combination of tragic landslides and the rise of steamships, which couldn't dock in this shallow harbour, destroyed the local economy. Positano began to die. Between the 1860s and the early 1900s, this town lost nearly half of its population. Thousands of Positanesi packed their trunks and emigrated, mostly to New York and the United States, seeking a life that these beautiful but unforgiving cliffs could no longer provide. By the end of World War II, Positano was a quiet, almost forgotten fishing village. A ghost town waiting for a second act. To truly understand the layout of Positano, we cannot just teleport to the centre. We have to earn our arrival. We are starting our descent on via Cristoforo Colombo. This winding ribbon of asphalt is the main artery of the town. If you arrived by bus or car, this is likely where you took your first step onto Positano's soil. And it is here, gripping this stone railing, that almost everyone has the exact same reaction. They stop, they gasp, and they reach for their camera. This is the $1 million view. From this vantage point, the town doesn't look like a real place. It looks like a tiered wedding cake made of stone and stucco. You can see the entire amphitheatre of houses, the green dome of the church way down below, and the boats leaving white wakes in the blue water. It is the image that has launched 1 million postcards. As we wind our way down, the walk itself is a sensory experience. You will notice that traffic here is intimate. The road is narrow, and the local bus drivers navigate these hairpin turns with a surgical precision that is equal parts impressive and terrifying. Continuing down, the real estate becomes legendary. We are walking past the heavy wooden doors of places like the Sirenas and the open terrace of Franco's Bar. These are the balconies of the elite. In the 1950s, John Steinbeck stayed in these rooms. And today, they remain the front row seats for the Positano sunset. If you look closely at the architecture here, you can see the Rosso Pompeiano, that distinct deep red colour that was popular in Roman times and is still the signature shade of many villas on this coast. As we approach the bottom of the hill, the road transforms into an open-air gallery. The walls are lined with ceramics plates, painted with suns, fish and lemons. This is the visual language of the Amalfi Coast, guiding us down toward the centre. And finally, we arrive here, Piazza dei Mulini. This is the end of the line for vehicles. From this point on, the engines turn off and the legs take over. The modern world of cars and buses is left behind, and we enter the pedestrian maze of the historic centre. The air gets quieter, the scent of jasmine and grilled fish gets stronger, and the pull of gravity leads us straight toward the sea. For the last 70 years, Positano has been the world's living definition of la dolce vita, the sweet life. But the tourism here has evolved into something almost ritualistic. In the 1950s and 60s, it was the jet set. Hollywood stars like Elizabeth Taylor and intellectuals seeking seclusion. They came to hide. Today, however, people come to be seen. In the age of social media, Positano has become perhaps the most recognizable backdrop in Italy. The vertical city is a visual paradox. It is chaotic yet perfectly framed. Every staircase offers a new angle, and every balcony feels like a theatre box looking out onto the Tyrrhenian Sea. It is a place that demands to be photographed, and for many modern travellers, simply being here is the ultimate status symbol. But beyond the photos, there is a tangible culture of craftsmanship that keeps the town grounded. As you walk through Positano, you are walking through an open-air atelier. This is the home of Moda Positano. In the mid-20th century, when the town was poor, locals began weaving hemp and linen, dyeing them in colours reflecting the bougainvillea and the ocean. It was a rags to riches survival story that transformed into high fashion. You will also hear the rhythmic tapping of hammers. This is the sound of custom sandal making, a tradition where cobblers measure your foot and craft leather sandals while you wait. And then there is the scent, the inescapable perfume of lemons. The sfusato amalfitano isn't just a fruit here, it is an identity. It is in the ceramics, on the fabrics, and, of course, in the glasses of ice-cold limoncello served after every meal. This popularity comes with a price. In the peak summer months, this village of less than 4,000 residents swells with tens of thousands of daily visitors. The vertical city challenges you physically. There are very few roads, and they are often gridlocked. To truly see Positano, you must climb. The locals have calves of steel for a reason. The staircases are the veins of the town. They are steep, they are endless, and they are the great equalizer, whether you are a backpacker or a billionaire. If you want to get to the top, you have to walk. But perhaps that effort is part of the allure. You earn the view, you earn the spritz at sunset. You earn the feeling that, for a moment, you are part of the painting. No matter where you stand in Positano, whether you are high on the cliffs or down on the pebble beach, your eyes are inevitably drawn to one point. It is the visual anchor of the entire town, the glittering dome of the Church of Santa Maria Assunta. This dome is the postcard image of the Amalfi Coast. It is covered in majolica tiles, a specific type of tin-glazed pottery that dates back to the Renaissance. The pattern of yellow, green and blue isn't random. It mimics the sun, the vegetation and the sea, weaving the church into the very landscape it overlooks. It is a beacon that has guided sailors home for centuries. But this structure is more than just a beautiful roof. It is the spiritual and historical heart of Positano. Originally, this site was home to a Benedictine abbey dedicated to Saint Mary, founded in the 10th century. At that time, this abbey was a powerhouse, controlling the port and the trade routes of the area. The true treasure of this church sits high above the main altar. It is the Byzantine icon of the Black Madonna. This is the very painting from the legend we spoke of earlier, the one that supposedly whispered poser, poser to the sailors. Art historians believe this icon actually arrived here in the 12th century, likely brought by Benedictine monks travelling on trade ships from the east. It is a stunning example of Byzantine art, characterized by its gold background and the solemn, stylized features of the Virgin and Child. For the people of Positano, this isn't just art, it is their protector. Every year, on the 15th of August, for the Feast of the Assumption, the town erupts in celebration to honor this icon, reenacting the miracle of its arrival on the shores.
Davanti a quello dei sandali, teniamo la sinistra.
Leaving the quiet sanctity of the church. We descend just a few more steps, and the energy shifts instantly. The narrow alleys open up, the sky widens, and we arrive at the living room of Positano, the Spiaggia Grande, or the Big Beach. Before we step onto the pebbles, we have to navigate this promenade. This is the food mile of the village. On one side, you have the sea breeze, on the other, a gauntlet of some of the most famous restaurants on the Amalfi Coast. Places like Ches, Black and La Cambusa are institutions here. If you look at the walls, you will see them lined with photos of Denzel Washington, Paul McCartney and wandering royalty. It is a reminder that this strip of pavement has been the place to see and be seen since the 1950s. It is frantic, it is loud, and it smells incredibly of garlic, basil, and grilled fish. The cuisine here is strictly 0 kilometre. The catch of the day, often scabbard fish or red prawns, is usually hauled onto this very beach just hours before it hits the plate. It is a sensory overload, but it is the perfect appetizer for the view that is about to unfold. The Spiaggia Grande is about 300 metres long, making it one of the largest beaches on this jagged coastline. But in the summer, every inch is contested territory. The beach is divided into two worlds. You have the Lidos, the private beach clubs with their distinct orange and blue umbrellas standing in military precision. Here, a sunbed is prime real estate, often booked weeks in advance. It represents the luxury side of Positano, table service, prosecco in an ice bucket, and total relaxation. Then there is the Spiaggia Libera, the free beach. It is smaller, more chaotic, and filled with a mix of locals, day trippers, and students. It is a democracy of sunbathers where towels overlap, and personal space is a forgotten concept. But whether you pay for a bed or sit on a towel, the water is the same, a deep, startling blue that stays cool even in the August heat due to the depth of the seafloor just off the coast. But the real secret of the Spiaggia Grande isn't looking out to sea. It is turning around from the water's edge. This is the only place where you can see the full scale of the vertical city. It is a natural amphitheatre. The beach is the stage, and the town is the audience, looking down upon you. If you trace the lines of the houses, you can see the history we spoke of. The lower levels are the fishermen's old quarters. As your eye travels up, you see the larger villas of the 18th century merchants. And finally, at the very top, the terrifyingly steep roads that connect Positano to the rest of the world. From down here, the colourful facades look like a mosaic. It is easy to see why the artist Paul Klee said that Positano was the only place in the world conceived on a vertical instead of a horizontal axis. If you look to the edges of the bay, you will see stone fortifications standing guard. These are the Saracen Towers, specifically the Torre Trazita on the right and the Torre di Sponda on the left. They were built in the Middle Ages as an early warning system. When pirate ships were spotted on the horizon, fires were lit on top of these towers to warn the villagers to run for the hills. Literally. Today, they are luxury rentals or private homes, silent reminders of a time when a day at the beach was a much more dangerous affair. And if the crowds here become too much, this beach is also a transit point. You will see small boats with handwritten signs for Da Adolfo or Loreto. These are the water taxis that ferry people to the smaller, hidden coves along the coast, accessible only by sea. It is a reminder that in Positano, the boat is often more useful than the car. If the Spiaggia Grande is the stage where Positano performs for the world, our next destination is where the town goes to catch its breath. To get there, we have to leave the crowds of the main bay behind and take a walk along one of the most beautiful and historically significant paths on the Amalfi Coast. This is the Via Positanesi d'America. The name of this walkway is a poignant tribute. It translates to the Street of the Positanesi of America. It is dedicated to the thousands of locals we spoke of earlier, those who left these shores in the late 19th and early 20th centuries to find work in the United States. They were the ones who sent money back home, keeping this town alive during its darkest decades. In a way, this path connects the old Positano with the new world that helped save it. As we walk, you will notice the pace slows down instantly. The path is carved directly into the cliffside, suspended above the turquoise water. It is narrow, romantic, and quiet. On your left, you have an uninterrupted view of the Mediterranean and the Lee Galley Islands in the distance. On your right, the raw limestone rock, often clinging with caper bushes and prickly pears. It is a transition zone, a 10-minute meditation between the chaos of the main town and the sanctuary we are about to reach. As the path dips downwards, the view opens up to reveal a second bay. This is Fornillo Beach. The first thing you feel here is the change in atmosphere. If Spiaggia Grande is Prosecco and paparazzi, Fornillo is cold beer and a book. It is the second largest beach in Positano, but it feels worlds apart. It is a favourite among those who know the town well, locals, writers and travellers who prefer the sound of the ocean over the sound of a DJ. The name Fornillo comes from the Italian word forni, meaning ovens. Historical accounts suggest that in the Roman era, specifically during the time of Emperor Tiberius, who ruled from nearby Capri, this area was home to large ovens used to bake bread for the imperial court. It is a humble industrial origin for what is now a peaceful escape. The geology here is similar to the main beach, pebbles rather than sand. But you will often find the water is even clearer here, protected by the cove. The establishments lining the back of the beach, like Pupetto or Da Ferdinando, have been here for generations. They are family run, serving simple spaghetti with clams and local wine, without the pretension of the main strip. It requires a bit more effort to get here and a bit more effort to leave. Remember, what goes down must come up those stairs. But that small barrier of exertion is exactly what protects Fornillo's charm. It is Positano stripped back to its essentials, the rock, the sea, the history, and the quiet beauty of the Italian summer. Dominating the view at the far end of the beach is a structure that looks like it was plucked from a fantasy novel. This is the Torre di Fornillo, often called the Torre Clavel. Like the other towers on the coast, it began as a medieval watchtower to spot pirates. But in the early 20th century, it was bought by a Swiss eccentric and intellectual named Gilbert Clavel. He was a poet and an architect who fell in love with the vertical city. He transformed this military ruin into a surrealist home, hosting artists like Picasso and Cocteau. The tower stands on a rocky spur that juts out into the sea, framing the beach and creating a sense of enclosure and privacy that you just don't get in the main bay. It stands as a silent guardian, a reminder of the bohemian artistic soul that defined Positano long before the luxury yachts arrived. Now comes the price we pay for that serenity, leaving Fornillo. The only way is up. We are climbing the endless staircases that connect the beach back to the upper road of Viale Pasitea. It is arguably the best stairmaster workout in the world. But every time you stop to catch your breath, you are rewarded with this, a view that makes the burning in your legs completely irrelevant. And we aren't the only ones enjoying the sun. Look at this little guy. While we are struggling with gravity, he has mastered the art of doing absolutely nothing. The cats of Positano are the true owners of these streets. They watch us tourists climb up and down all day, wondering why we are always in such a rush. We have conquered the stairs and rejoined the main road. This is Viale Pasitea. If Via Cristoforo Colombo is the entrance to Positano, this street is its spine. It winds through the upper part of the village in a long serpentine loop, eventually funneling everyone down to the centre. The street is named after the nymph Pasitea, the figure from Greek mythology we mentioned earlier, the beloved of Poseidon. It is a fitting name because this street is seductive. It is impossible to walk down it quickly. Every few meters, something pulls your eye, a burst of colour from a dress shop, the smell of handmade soap, or a glimpse of the ocean between the buildings. As we walk, you will notice that almost every second shop is selling clothing. This is the heart of the Moda Positano phenomenon. We touched on this earlier, but walking here, you can really see the evolution of the style. In the 1950s, this wasn't luxury fashion. It was survival. Local women took hemp and linen ruff, durable fabrics used for fishing and agriculture, and dyed them in buckets using vegetable dyes. They added macrame lace and crochet, creating a look that was free, spirited and light. It was the perfect antidote to the stiff, formal clothing of the city. When tourists from Rome or New York arrived, they would leave their suitcases unopened and buy an entire wardrobe here. Today, brands like Antica Sartoria or Small Family run boutiques still keep that tradition alive. It is not just a souvenir, it is a piece of wearable history. But it is not just fabric. Viale Pasitea is also a corridor of canvas. Positano has always been a refuge for artists. During the 20th century, it became a sanctuary for painters fleeing the chaos of Europe-German expressionists, cubists, and surrealists who found the light here to be unique. As we pass these galleries, take a look at the art. You will see a lot of landscapes, of course, but look for the specific style. Many local artists use a technique that mimics the mosaic tiles of the church dome or the vibrant, saturated colours of the sunset. It is art that tries to capture the impossible verticality of this town. These galleries aren't just shops. They are the visual memory of the village. As the slope becomes gentler, the energy intensifies. We are approaching the Piazza di Mulini again, but from the other side. The name Mulini refers to the ancient water mills that used to stand near here, powered by a stream that ran down from the mountains. The mills are long gone, replaced by boutiques and cafes, but the name remains. A quiet nod to the agricultural past of this glamorous town. Our loop is complete, but every journey in Positano ends the same way it began. With a climb, we are making our final ascent back up via Cristoforo Colombo. Leaving this town is always harder than arriving, and I don't just mean the physical effort of walking uphill. There is a heaviness that sets in when you realize you are leaving this bubble of beauty to return to the real world. Let's stop here for one last look. From this height, the details we explored today, the pebbles of the beach, the ceramic tiles of the church dome, the linen dresses blowing in the wind, all blend together into a single glowing mosaic. We have seen that Positano is a place of contradictions. It is a town built where no town should exist, clinging to a cliffside that defies gravity. It is a place that was once poor and empty, sending its children to America to survive, and is now overflowing with wealth and life. It is a destination that demands effort. It demands that you climb its stairs, navigate its crowds, and respect its geography. But in return, it gives you something that is becoming rare in our world, a sense of wonder. John Steinbeck was right when he said, "It isn't quite real when you are here." Standing here, looking at these lights stacked against the dark mountain, it feels less like a city and more like a theatre set, built solely to remind us of how beautiful the world can be. we walked the path of the immigrants on via Positanesi d'America, retracing the steps of those who had to leave this paradise to save it. We stood in the shadow of the Black Madonna, a protector who has watched over these sailors for 900 years. We saw the Roman ruins that prove the wealthy have been seeking refuge here since the days of the empire. Positano teaches us that beauty is resilient. It has survived pirate raids, economic collapse, and natural disasters. And despite the modern waves of tourism, the soul of the village remains. You find it in the smile of the porter, the taste of the sfusato lemon, and the silence of the early morning on Fornillo Beach.
Thank you.
It is a place that stays with you. The bite of Positano that Steinbeck wrote about. It is real. And once you have felt it, you will spend the rest of your life trying to find your way back to this balcony overlooking the sea. The vertical city is not just a destination, it is a feeling. It is the feeling of being suspended between the mountains and the sky, living life even just for a few days on a higher plane. Thank you for joining me on this walk through one of the most beautiful places on earth. It has been a privilege to share these streets, these stories, and this view with you. If you enjoyed this journey and want to see more documentaries like this, please support the channel. Hit that like button, it really helps us share these stories with more people. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventure. We have many more Italian gems to explore. Until next time, keep exploring and see you in the next video.